very rarely have I ever spoken to someone and they've wanted to move because their job's too hard.
Yeah.
I can probably count on one hand the amount of times someone said the job's too hard and that they don't enjoy it for that reason. I think often you'll speak to people and the job might be too easy.
One of the key things for us is, those people that are really good, the ones that you want on your team, need to be discovered and need to be properly sold the opportunity and found.
And if an interviewer is rude, assumptive that they know stuff about them, assumes that they're going to be very interested in the role and they don't need to sell the company or anything like this, it can leave a bit of a sour taste.
Hi everyone, welcome to another special episode of The Edge of Transformation. This week and for this episode, I'm sitting down with my business partner, Ollie, and we're going to run through 5 things that we've learned in the last 5 years with Edge Tech. So this episode is a little bit different. Usually I have different guests on, but we thought for our 5th birthday, which is in September this year, we'd do a slightly different special episode with us two and talk about the 5 things that we've learned over the last 5 years at Edge Tech. It's going to be a real mix of things that we've sort of learned from a technology perspective, recruitment perspective, the market, etc. So hopefully there's something in here for everyone if you're listening or watching. So yeah, we can jump straight into it. Ollie, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me on. It's nice to finally be invited. But yeah, I think it's exciting to have got this far and try and share what we've learned with people, whether it's around the recruitment space or the actual technology focus that we have. I think hopefully we've got a lot that we can share and people will find it useful.
5 years.
I know, don't start. And that's just here that I've worked with you. I mean, if we taught it all
known each other for longer than that. Yeah. But okay, so right, let's jump into it. So I think one of the first sort of points that we kind of raised, and when we sat down, we tried to have a think about, right, what 5 things could be the most relevant for people that would resonate with everyone. And probably the first one that came to mind for us was about money and remuneration. Certainly in recruitment, when people are changing jobs, money is a massive driver for most people. For companies that are hiring, money is the kind of starting point for a lot of opportunities. And it really comes down to, although a lot of people do say that money isn't the main motivator, it's certainly a massive consideration for almost everyone that we speak to and have spoken to over the last 5 years. So I think this was one of the areas that we wanted to kind of touch on around money and sort of how important it is and how involved it becomes in people's decision-making processes and also a company's decision-making process as well. So yeah, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I think it's one of those situations we speak to hundreds of candidates a week, a month, thousands a year, and you will have conversations with every candidate about many different things, and people bring up different points and different topics, but you'll very rarely have a conversation with a candidate and they don't bring up money.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, at the end of the day, if you didn't get paid for your job, most people probably wouldn't do their job. Is realistically where it is. So everyone's got that as their headline, but I think what we've come to understand is, while a lot of people think that's their primary motivator, once you actually dig into it, once you actually look at why they're looking and what their reasons are, rarely they actually think they're getting very underpaid or they're not being rewarded in that sense for their service. I think when you're speaking to people, the real drivers for moving are generally different. They're generally progression, opportunity. If you're looking for a new role, you might be looking for a management opportunity, you might be looking to learn a new skill, something along those lines. I think that's what I see a lot more when I speak to people, and you actually dig into it and then you realize that the money is just a byproduct of actually then moving their role, then progressing their career, and this sort of thing, and they need to be properly recompensed for that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think alongside that as well, like you say, around the progression and learning opportunity, I think the training side of things and how people can basically become challenged in that next role, I think that's a big piece of what a lot of companies don't always take into consideration, because they're looking at this person who can do a job for now, but this person is actually thinking, how will this next step help me advance, help me improve on my skills, help me learn new things? So I think, like you say, money is obviously a part of the factor, but when you start digging into other reasons why, you tend to look at other areas, and that part, that kind of learning, that personal development piece is key for everyone. You know, no matter what job you're in and no matter what level you're in, I think everyone that we speak to in some way wants to develop themselves further. They want to learn new things. They want to kind of, challenge themselves in a way.
I agree. I think very rarely have I ever spoken to someone and they've wanted to move because their job's too hard.
Yeah.
I can probably count on one hand the amount of times someone said the job's too hard and that they don't enjoy it for that reason. I think often you'll speak to people and the job might be too easy. The job might be boring. They might not be learning or gaining from that. And I think at that point, that's when sometimes job seekers need to be a little bit more selfish and think what's best for me. I might be able to be doing this job and it's filling a hole for the business, but if it's not pushing me to my next goal, if it's not making me learn, if it's not making me grow, then maybe I need to look at other opportunities. And again, it's not the money side of things that's making them move. It's the fact that they're not being challenged.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that and learning, they kind of come hand in hand. But then I think also culture is probably one of the key things that we've seen, and it's changed. And we'll come on to this other point in a little bit because I don't want to jump into it too quickly. But culture is one of the main reasons when we speak to people and they're saying that they're looking for a new role. They say it's either because they're not being challenged and they want to learn, develop, and progress, or it's either they don't like who they're working with, and that's usually a big factor. And we hear that quite a lot where, and people have heard it all the time before. People leave bad managers because they're not happy where they are. The culture where they're working, that environment is such a key thing, because you work 8 hours a day, 9 hours, sometimes more for a lot of people that we know as well, and ourselves. But the people that you work with is a massive factor to enjoying your role. And I think people underestimate that a little bit, and I think we might have lost it a little bit culture wise. And I know our main next point is about working from home, and I'll probably touch on this a little bit just quickly, but the companies that are completely remote, I feel like a lot of them have lost their culture a little bit. And although they do their little Zoom meetings or get together sort of once a month in the office for team activities, which is great, and it shows that the company wants to do more to get people involved, you can't help but kind of miss out on the whole cultural element where people are in the office every single day. You're bouncing off one another, kind of having those conversations, building those relationships. And I know that doesn't work for everyone, because there are certain people that like to work from home. There are certain roles where that's absolutely fine to do and you can get everything done and you're super productive. And there are other roles where people will struggle to work completely remote and from home. So I think companies are starting to find a bit of a balance, but without going into work from home too much, I think culture is also a huge consideration from what we've seen, and a massive factor to people moving. So I think if companies are wanting to attract people, they're going to really need to think about their sort of culture strategy, if that's a thing, and what sort of things they have put in place outside of we get together sort of like once a week and we've got like a ping pong table in the office when you come in, that sort of thing. Like, what else can you offer people, like culturally, to build that kind of environment that you want?
I think I agree, and I think it's one of those things. We do a lot of work internally, and we do a lot of work with our external clients around culture. And I think it's really easy to say that people will leave bad managers and bad cultures, but I think sometimes you need to look at the flip side of that and look at why people stay because of good cultures and what they're doing right and these sorts of things. I think we all know people who are staying at roles maybe they're overqualified for, maybe they're not right for anymore, and maybe they might be able to move somewhere else, but they want to stay because they love the company. They love the company, they love the people they work with, and all of this sort of stuff. And there's a few key points I think around it. I think as you say, it's a team environment where everyone trusts everyone, where the company's really got a clear goal that everyone feels like they're driving towards, everyone feels like they're part of it, and everyone feels like they're adding value. And I think also it's working with people you get along with. I know you've mentioned sort of the work from home and the loss of culture, and I think it is true to a point. It does depend on who the business is and this sort of stuff, because I know that unfortunately I work from the office every day and we see each other every day and this sort of stuff. But if we're not in the office, we'll be on the phone for half of the day anyway, talking about this sort of thing. And you don't necessarily lose the culture from that side of things. I think it really depends on what the company's values are, and really the company's value proposition at that point to help people feel like part of a culture, whether they're in the office or not. And I guess, as you say, moving on to our next point, moving on to our second point, our second lesson that we've really learned over the past 5 years, and realistically, this has been more the past 3, I guess. But work from home is here to stay. I mean, no one's making any bones about the fact that it is a good thing. There are plenty of people who much prefer it. There's people who are saving 3 hours a day on their commute. There are people who are being able to see their kids and put them to bed, and all of these sorts of things that they couldn't do before because work from home just wasn't as prevalent as it is now. And I think from our side, there's positives and there's negatives. I think it's very different for different companies. So as we mentioned, there are companies who will do activities every month, or they'll have meetups every quarter or something like that, whether they're all across the world, whether they're just in the UK, just in the States. People will be able to fly all in once a month, once a quarter, so that there's these big team days, so that everyone gets to know everyone. And then there are other companies where I'll see on LinkedIn, people are asking if they've met other people in their team. And this sort of thing, and people haven't met anyone in their team, and they've been working there for a year. And again, I think it really depends on the culture side of things that you want to bring to the business.
And I think it's, like you say, it's very different for different roles. And I think each company, and I know it's quite hard for, say, like an enterprise size company to have complete flexibility with everyone and have a different rule for different people, because it then becomes quite complicated. Because, you know, if you've got Sarah who, you know, likes to work from home 4 days a week, but she's part of a team that actually in general prefer to come in, you know, 3 days a week, she's going to be missing out on that. I can understand that the company probably doesn't want any sort of separation between the team, and they want people to work quite well together. So I guess it is tough for larger companies, and we have started to see, you know, blanket rulings of coming back into the office. I don't know if that's because the companies are paying through the nose, you know, for their rent, or, you know, as things are coming back to normal, they want to, you know, oversee people a bit more, which I can understand if productivity has dropped, but in certain areas, productivity's gone up for a lot of people. So I think a lot of companies do need to play it as a case-by-case basis. And I mean, you'll probably agree, but the amount of people that we speak to who, you know, come to us and say, oh, you know, they're looking to bring us in the office, I want something that's completely remote now, which is fine, you know, for some of the, you know, technical positions, I completely get. And even to, you know, certain, you know, other kind of commercial positions like go-to-market sales, for instance, you know, if you're a senior enterprise salesperson, manage your own diary, you do what's needed, can basically work from anywhere as long as you get the job done. Where it doesn't work is, you know, lower entry-level junior positions where they need a lot of training, they need a lot of support. Speaking to a client the other day where they brought someone on who was pretty new, 1 to 2 years worth of experience, didn't have management close to them, and they really struggled to get up to speed. So they came to a mutual agreement that it wasn't working, which is a shame, because for someone who's quite young, you kind of want to be around people, you want to learn. I don't know if that's just me because we did that when we were younger. I don't know if the generation now are thinking, I want to work from home, work from anywhere. I don't need someone looking over my shoulder, when really they probably do. So yeah, it's a bit of a mix and a bit of a match. And I don't think there's one right sort of way to do it. I think the hybrid approach is probably going to be the way forward, but it really comes down to the company and I guess how they kind of go about it. But it's definitely here to stay.
No, I agree. I think it's a hard balance to strike. I think people like to think that maybe they don't need help and this sort of stuff when they do, and there's a difference between micromanagement and genuinely trying to help people. And if someone's pretty new or anything like that, and they've got bad practice, and you're not there to notice it, how are you going to fix it? How are you going to spot it while it's happening rather than at the very end? And I think those are the sorts of things that people have to be wary of when they're a completely remote business and this sort of thing. And I think while there are all of these potential negatives, and as you say, there are a lot of people who don't want to work from home, don't want to work in an office. They only want to work remotely. People are going to bring them back. There are plenty of people that I speak to as well who work fully remotely, and they're like, I'm just at home. I'm just at home. It's just me, or it's just me and the family. Which sometimes I want a break. I want to get away. I want to meet people my age. I don't want to just be with my kids all the time because I need to get out and this sort of stuff. And there are people who want to just actually be able to integrate and socialize with their work colleagues too, which I understand. I think the positives and the negatives are they're really specific for each company.
Yeah.
If it's not a blanket rule, as you say. You can't just sit down and say, right, you're this type of company, you need to be remote, and you're this type of company, you can't. But I think one thing that you do need to really take into account is the availability of talent and the wide range of talent that you can open yourself up to, even if you're remote nationally, especially if you're remote internationally. The different levels of experience you can get, expertise, you completely open it up to as many people as possible. Whereas if you're in a small business park in a town in the UK, then you've got a pretty small talent pool that you can access, and you're never going to really get the best people unless you're incredibly lucky.
Yeah. We've actually seen that quite a bit, haven't we? Where people have been quite set on a location, need someone within a commutable distance, get into the office. Even if it was 3 days a week, they still need to be within a commutable distance. And finding, especially in the areas that we work into, quite niche technology sectors, trying to find those people that are within a 5 mile radius of your office is going to be tricky. And you're going to have to either pay quite a lot or have a bit more flexibility. But like you say, when you open that up to either completely remote or maybe in the office once a month or once a fortnight, completely changes the talent pool for you, and the access you get to people who are really good definitely changes. So yeah, I think that, I don't know if you've got anything else to add on sort of work from home. I think it's clear that it kind of works for some, doesn't work for others, and it really is kind of case by case, and there's not really a right or wrong way. And I think hybrid is probably the way forward. I don't think we're going to ever get back to a point for pretty much every business in across the globe where everyone's in 5 days a week. I think that day's probably gone. But yeah, I think a mix is probably the way forward. Which I guess takes us on to our third lesson that we've learned, or third sort of point that we want to kind of cover, and that's around about sort of talent in the market, and that the best talent isn't looking and needs to be found. The rock stars, I sort of hate that word a little bit, and the superstars of the world that you want working for your business, they're the ones that are not just sitting there applying for jobs on LinkedIn. They're not looking at adverts on job boards. They're the ones that are doing what they're best at. They're developing code, they're selling enterprise software, they're creating a new product, they're doing some marketing or whatever they're doing. They're focused on doing that day in, day out. That is their passion. That is what they're good at. And they're not sitting around, looking for new things. So, the one of the key things for us is, those people that are really good, the ones that you want on your team, need to be discovered and need to be properly sold the opportunity and found.
Yeah, I'd say the war for talent very much is still alive and kicking. I think people have seen a number of layoffs. They've seen a number of people in the market at the moment, and they think that maybe it shifted a little bit. However, a lot of companies are still keeping on to people. A lot of companies are still keeping on to the best people. And if you're in the market and you're looking for someone, sure, you might put a job ad out. And we see it on LinkedIn or on a job board where a job advert will be posted and they'll have 200 applicants or something bad within a day. However, when you speak to the hiring manager or the person posting the advert, they've got a lot more applicants, but a lot of them aren't relevant. They might be looking for a job. They might not have been in the industry. They might not have got the right skills and this sort of stuff. So while the top line number has grown and is a lot higher, when you actually narrow it down, when you get it down to that shortlist, it's still really short.
Yeah,
It's still a really short shortlist. So the talent isn't just sitting there waiting to be picked up and not even picked up, waiting to apply for your job in a small town in a business park. It's still needing to be found. It's
yeah,
still, if there's all of these companies that are still looking for people and still hiring, you've got to not only find the right people, you've got to get them attracted to yourself. You've got to get them attracted to your business. And that's why that war for talent really is still there.
I think on the job advert point, job adverts now today they've been made so easy for people to apply. You've got quick apply on LinkedIn. You don't even need a CV. You can just use your LinkedIn profile. Even on the job boards now, I know in the past you used to have to fill out an application and type all your details in. Now it just saves everything. Your CV is on the job board already. You can just go through and just go bang, 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 all the way down. And because of that, it's basically made job ads. I mean, there is a use for them, clearly, because they do occasionally work. You might find a diamond in the rough, but because it's been made so easy for people to apply en masse, you just get so much crap.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to many clients who have said, we put out a job advert, we'll see how that runs for a couple of weeks, and then we'll get back in touch and have a chat. 2 weeks rolls round, they've said, oh well, yeah, actually, we've got 200 applicants. We're going through them now. We're going to see what turns up, and then another week goes round after getting through those 200, maybe speaking to a couple, and they turn around and say, actually, none of them are even any good. So it's really really hit and miss with job adverts. Miss most of the time from our experience, and we put out a lot, and we've used a lot of different platforms. And the hit rate is really low. I think we were doing some statistics the other day over the course of this year from our placements. I think 4% came from job adverts, and the rest were from sort of proactive headhunting approaches, email campaigns, our network / sort of database, referrals and recommendations. So all of these other avenues that most companies don't usually look at or consider first time around, and just go through the job advert route, it can slow things down. So if time's not on your side, you're kind of hindering yourself a little bit. So yeah, that was just kind of what I want to say on that part.
It's funny you say that about the blanket applies and you're just pressing and hoping, because that's how I ended up in recruitment. But
I did as well, to be fair.
But I think you're right. I think at the moment we're still at a point where a proactive headhunting approach trumps everything else. The way that we describe it to our clients is like an iceberg. There's the 30% of talent at max that's floating on the top, that's sitting there for everyone to see. And sometimes you can find a good person there. You'll find the needle in the haystack. They'll be just happen to be looking at the right time, and they'll be the perfect fit for the business. However, there's 70% below the surface that you're not even scratching, that you're not speaking to. They're the people that aren't looking. They're the people that aren't applying. They're the people that may be open to a new role. They might be open to the right opportunity, but they don't even know themselves. So they need someone to speak to them, to reach out to them, to have that conversation and find out really what it is they are looking for. And if they're looking for something that could be like this, then it's working it so that they understand the positives, the negatives, and the opportunities that come with a new role compared to where they currently are. And you're not getting that if you're just putting a job ad out and you're hoping that they see it. And I think that's really a situation where a lot of companies fall short when they're sitting there hoping that they're going to get this, hoping they're going to get that diamond, when it's 1 in 1,000 that you're going to get that perfect person from it.
Yeah.
A job advert. You might get someone, and then it's, will you settle for that person, or will you go out and you're like, no, actually, I need someone who's right.
That's the thing as well. When you do find that diamond in the rough in the job advert, you don't have a short list of diamonds. You have that one good person. You're like, yes, we've lucked onto this. But wouldn't you rather compare that one person to, you know, a short list of 3 to 5 other good people who do fit the bill, who are really good, and then you don't have to, you know, have that little thought in the back of your mind that, am I just taking the first person who looks kind of good, or am I actually comparing them to other people who are in the market just like them, and am I picking the right person for me? Because, you know, on paper, yeah, that's fine, but when it comes down to all the other things, you know, cultural fit, behavioural, all the other parts that you know bring someone into an organisation, is that person even right? So you're kind of selling yourself short if you do. But, you know, saying that, job adverts have worked for people. People have hired off of job adverts, as you know, but it just doesn't give you the maximum exposure that you probably deserve in the market.
I agree, and I think it's really, as you say, working with a specialist who knows the market. It's not just working with someone who understands recruitment. It's working with someone who understands recruitment within what you do.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're working in a specific industry and you are wanting someone who's going to fit into your company, we'd know full well if one of our clients is hiring, we know the 5 clients that their culture might fit, or if they're not happy at that culture, they'd be happy at this culture.
Yeah.
Because we know the industry, because we know the players in the market and this sort of thing. And you only get that with time served. You only get that from when you've been working in the industry, whatever industry it is, for quite a while. And that's why I think it's so important to work with not only someone who understands those headhunting methods, who understands how to do it, but also understands the industry that you're working in and what types of people are really going to get you excited.
Yeah, I think it's a powerful combination. You can work with a recruitment partner who uses that sort of specialist headhunting approach that we spoke about, you know, getting that other 70% of talent in the market. But for a company that also doesn't specialize in the space, they will still struggle.
Yeah.
So it's having that almost like a 1-2 combo. And also, I think, you know, with a specialist in the space who knows the market, they'll be able to give you a bit of advice on, you know, what candidates are looking for, what you can probably expect. Whereas another recruiter might say, okay, yeah, I'll take the role brief. I'll take all of the list of requirements that you're looking for, and I'll go away, and then I'll go and try and find that person. But they might not know that those expectations might be unrealistic, or you might be selling yourself short, and you could get someone, you know, a bit more experienced. Whereas, you know, if someone knows the market, you worked on these types of things before, you can turn around and say, actually, you probably, you know, won't get this, and this, but you'll get this, and this is how much you'd be able to, you know, pay someone for that. Or if you do want all of this, you're probably looking at this as well. So I think aside from knowing the market, there are a few other benefits from working with a specialist, and also just overall speed. Like if you know in the market, you're going to turn things around quickly, especially if it's, you know, if it's time sensitive for the client and they need someone on board ASAP. It's you know, it's quite a powerful thing to be able to turn around and say, I already know 5 people off the top of my head. I know 5 of your competitors who I could approach straight away. Let's go out and do that. So it's a big thing. So
no, I agree, and I think that brings us nicely on to our 4th point. You mentioned it briefly before, that tailored approaches really triumph. I don't think one size fits all. You've mentioned job ads and this sort of thing. I think a lot of companies we speak to just post those out. They post those out and they sit back and they wait. And I think if you're doing that, you're in for a lot of pain, because I mean, we worked with a client recently and we filled a couple of roles for them, and there was one role that they were like, oh no, don't worry, we don't need help on this one. We've got a job ad out running, and that was back in April, and it's now nearly September, and they still haven't found anyone. And when we're speaking to them, there's a few different points around it as well. I think not only is it the type of role, but it's also the location. I think people need to understand cultural sensitivities towards these sorts of things. A lot of countries don't necessarily apply for jobs
Yeah.
directly with end users and the companies who are advertising them. It's just not the way they do it in their culture. Sure, we do here in the UK and in the US, but in some countries in Europe, in Asia, they don't necessarily, because that's not how they do things. They wait to get approached by recruiters.
Yeah.
They wait to get approached by a third party about these roles. So I think a lot of the time those spray and pray approaches, as you say, it's similar to when someone's just clicking through and applying for all of the jobs. If a HR internal recruitment or anything like that, or the line manager themselves just spraying job ads out and hoping that someone's going to come back. So I think if a business are looking to place a number of ads and hope that the best people are going to come in, they're in for a rude awakening, because realistically, you've got to hope that the best person is going to apply for the job, and then you've got to hope that they're right. And let's be honest, the copy isn't easy to get right, to make people attracted to your business, show them about all of the different opportunities and this sort of stuff, as well as actually getting them to tempt to apply to it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think with the copy side of things for adverts, I think because adverts are so easy to apply for, you need to do something special to stand out. We see way too much at the moment where businesses are putting down just the list of responsibilities, the list of skills that they need. Usually the list of skills is ridiculously long. They're asking for someone to have, loads and loads of different skills, when in reality, is that achievable? Maybe not a lot of the time. And like you say, with the copy piece, internal HR, recruitment teams aren't always the best at writing captivating adverts. They're very much putting the job description out there, and a job description and an advert, job ad, are two very separate things. The job description, sure, you should have your responsibilities, you should have the kind of requirements that you're looking for someone. But with an advert, what you should be doing is shouting about, the company, what achievements have you made, a little bit about the culture, giving people an insight, and almost taking them on like a journey, almost like a story in a way, so people are kind of captivated by, not just the role and what they could be doing, but also what the company's doing as well. And I think a lot of businesses miss out on that. And naturally, like I say, internal recruitment teams, HR teams aren't always the best at writing that copy, and most companies probably aren't getting their marketing team to support them. And I think probably one other thing to add on in terms of job ads, because everyone can post a job ad, everyone can put one on LinkedIn, everyone can put one on a job board. It's like, for instance, when you post something on LinkedIn or Instagram or Facebook, it's there for like 5 minutes. As soon as someone else puts a job ad on, it just gets pushed down. I mean, even in the space we work into, one day you can see on the first page a list of jobs. The next day, they're all completely gone and completely changed. Like, it changes so quickly. So if you're hoping that, you put one job advert out and someone will apply, the chances are you better catch someone when they're looking at it there and then, because, sometimes people aren't going to scroll through, 5 or 6 pages to find that job. They might do. People might put the time into it, but because things are so easy now, people are just apply to absolutely everything. So yeah, that kind of just posting a job ad and hoping for the best doesn't, from what we see, it doesn't always work. And, it's a good part to have of your recruitment process, but I wouldn't, probably rely on that, completely.
And I think it's one of those things where working with a real talent provider and does help. And I think people get it misconstrued often, that if you're working with someone like us, you might need to do the whole process through us, you might need to do every single part of it. But there are times when we engage with clients just to help them on the strategy sessions of it, help them how they should build the hire, how they should manage all of that, and how best they should write their adverts, what their talent attraction should be, and all of these sorts of things. Sure, if you want to use us fully, if you want to use our full skill set and our full, all of our tools, I guess, the full gamut of everything that we can do, from writing the job ads to using LinkedIn to using our own database, and then also, I guess, tapping up our network, speaking to people in our space who might be unhappy, where we can understand what companies are doing well, what companies aren't doing well, so that we know, oh, well, these are the types of people you're looking for in this company here. Aren't going through the best time at the moment, so these people might be open to moving. These sorts of things are where you can really start to use every opportunity available to you, rather than just narrowing yourself down to job ads or narrowing yourself down to LinkedIn or something like that. Really opening every single option to make sure that you get those diamonds that you're looking for, the best candidates.
Yeah. I think a multi-channel approach is the most successful, and I think sometimes it takes companies some failures in their recruitment process to understand that actually partnering with a specialist probably isn't a bad idea, for these niche hires, senior hires, or whatever. I think they can fill the lower level positions with adverts. It's quite straightforward to do, but when it comes to something quite tricky, having that multi-channel approach where you're getting that bottom 70% of the iceberg, not just the top 30%, and getting the people that you really want, then that makes all the difference. And I think from that kind of multi-channel approach takes us on to our fifth point, which is about process, and process being super important above quite a lot of things when it comes to this whole process, and definitely something we've learned along the way over the last 5 years. And I think a lot of our clients have learned that from us as well, as part of being a key element of making sure that they're successful in hiring the right people and hiring the best people as well, by having a robust process in place, allowing them to not only attract the best people, but move them effectively through the different stages to a successful offer, and having that enjoyable journey as being a part of it. So I think that's one of the kind of key points I think that is good to kind of finish off with.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a point that touches all of the other areas that we've spoken about, and it really makes or breaks a hire. Because if you think about it, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 interactions they have with the business are probably the only interactions they've had with the business. And if an interviewer is rude, assumptive that they know stuff about them, assumes that they're going to be very interested in the role and they don't need to sell the company or anything like this, it can leave a bit of a sour taste. And if they're working with other recruiters, if they're working on other jobs and they're interviewing elsewhere, and another company are doing those little bits, they're doing those little things to make them feel wanted, to make them feel valued, then it's going to be a bit of a no-brainer for them as to which company they should join. And it gets sort of irrespective of everything else that you can offer at that point. If they don't feel like they're going to be valued, if they don't feel like they're wanted within the business, very rarely do we see someone who actually wants to join.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to, like you say, with this person having the first interaction with the business. To be completely honest, everyone we speak to, probably has 4 or 5 opportunities on the go. They're all going to be interviewing for there or thereabouts the same position. So when it comes to the job, the day-to-day sort of responsibilities are pretty much going to be the same. Yeah, they might work in a different industry, but by and large, they're doing the same thing. So when it comes down to selecting a new employer, it really comes down to the process, the culture that company has, the rapport that they build along the way, and how quickly and effectively they can move someone through the process. If you have someone who's neck and neck, they've got identical opportunity, but one process is moving quite quickly, they turn interview and CV feedback round within 24, 48 hours. They're moving someone through the process. The recruiter is keeping them in the loop with what's happening, compared to another process where, it might take an extra couple of days to get feedback. They might not come back, or they might not be working with a recruiter. So the candidate might not be in the know. And then they've already gone through 2 stages with this other opportunity. They've gone through 1, but they're waiting for the next one, but they don't really know how that's going. Which one are they going to feel more bought into? They're going to enjoy the process of the other one where they're constantly kept in the loop. They feel a bit more loved. So that makes a massive difference. And, you're right as well. It's just as much about the candidate interviewing the company than it is the company interviewing the candidate. It's so two-way nowadays. I think, 10, 15 years ago, it's very much you have to go in, you have to impress, and they're just there to judge you and assess you. But now it's you're going in, what's this person like? Could they be, are they your manager? Do you get on well with them? Like, how do you have any things in common? Like, what's their sort of style? So I think there's so much that comes into play. And like you say, the process element kind of wraps everything up that we've sort of spoken about. And with, even if you tick a lot of the boxes with everything else, if you have a bad process, you're going to fail kind of 9 times out of 10 compared to a business that has, you know, an effective and smooth process.
Yeah, and I think it really brings it back to, especially the first point, when we're talking about money, but also about growth opportunities, progression, culture within the business, all of those sorts of things you're going to learn about realistically at the interviews. When you're speaking to the candidates, when you're speaking to the interviewers, you're going to learn what the opportunities are, how you can grow, what the business is like, and how they work. And if you can't put that across succinctly, if you can't put that across in a way that's going to excite them, then they're going to be doing well to join, especially if, as we say, if it's a role on site and this sort of thing where you're going to have to work with these people, you want to make sure the culture's tip top. And then I think there's different stages. Sure, there's some roles that will do a one-stage interview, they'll do a 30, 45-minute interview, and then they'll offer from there. But there are people who won't necessarily like that. There are people who want to be sold to a bit more, who want to understand a bit more. And I think there's definitely a sweet spot between, say, 1 to 3. And it's about the time. If you've got 3 interviews and they're all done within 4 days, that's a lot more exciting. That's a lot more exciting for the candidate than if you've got 2 interviews but they're a month apart.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to remember it. You're going to feel fairly out of the loop. You're not going to feel very wanted. And so even if there are a high number of stages, if you can have them back to back, if you can have them the day after and this sort of stuff, it makes you feel really wanted because you know that people are turning things around for you. And we've seen it before. There are a lot of companies now who are bringing their MDs, their senior directors in for, say, a final call at the end to get to know you. And it's not necessarily an interview. They're not necessarily assessing their skills or whether they'd fit into the company, but they're just giving them a bit of a background on the business, what they've been doing, what their growth plans are, just to get them bought into the journey and where they're going to next. And so they know they're not just a number on a spreadsheet. They know that they know the first name and they're on first name terms already with the MD. And things like that make such a big difference, I think, when we're speaking to people.
Yeah, I think we've seen that quite a lot, and I think there's a direct correlation between the people that go through processes like that, where there are those little touches, compared to other processes where I've spoken to a couple of hiring managers. That's really it. There's been not that much communication. They've interviewed them, not really built any rapport, and then got through to the end stage. There's definitely a correlation between the companies that go the extra mile through that process, even if it's just sending out like a pre-interview pack and saying, this is our style of interview, this is who you'll be speaking to. I mean, we do that anyway for all of the candidates and clients that we work with, but for a company to reach out and do something like that as well, I think it's just a nice touch that sets you apart. It's the same as when people go in for interviews, and after the interview they send a thank you just email to the interviewer and say thanks, it was great meeting you. It kind of sets you apart everyone else, and it makes it stand out. And those little things do count, especially when when someone's got 2 or 3 other opportunities on the go. So yeah, I think if anyone can take anything from that, I think nailing down the process and kind of going that extra mile as much as you can, just having those little tweaks does really make a difference.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, no, and I think they're the most important 5 things that we've learned around recruitment and the process.
Yeah.
And hopefully you guys can take something from that and learn from it too.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, thank you guys. If you've got any questions, or if you have any comments on the points that we've raised, if they resonate with you, if you disagree with them, we'd welcome any sort of comments. All of our contact details are going to be in the show notes and below. So if you're listening and watching, it will be down below for you to reach out if you want to get in touch. If you're looking for your next job in the intelligent automation and AI space, get in touch with us. And alternatively, if you're looking to hire and you need skills in the space and you need some help on the recruitment front, then likewise get in touch with us. We'd be more than happy to help you. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Thanks.